What's going on? Welcome to Stacking the Box. I'm Matt Verderam. He is Ian McMillan, and this is how you should bet or how to bet the Divisional Round Weekend. I don't want to say how you should bet because I don't want to lose your money. But hopefully that's not the case. Ian, we spoke about 2 hours ago doing the Arrowhead Addict podcast, but how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Ate a little lunch in between. I'm ready to go.
Okay. Awesome. Beautiful. Yeah, I see peanut butter out of a jar earlier. I think that's about all I had time for. All right. Let's get into this. There's 4 games. I think it's the best weekend in the NFL calendar. I love this weekend. The wild card weekend, you still kind of have some nonsense in there, but now you have at least 6 really good teams, maybe even more, depending on your viewpoint of it. Look, before we get into the gambling aspect of all this stuff, what game are you most excited to watch?
That's a great question. The game I'm most excited to watch. I think I would say, actually, I think it's the Cowboys and the 49ers on Sunday night.
Explain yourself.
I think it's the most evenly matched game of the bunch. I think the others, actually, I think all 3 others, could be blowouts or at least one-handedly. I'm still curious as to what we're going to see from Brock Purdy.
Okay.
I in terms of how good the game is going to be, I think the 49ers and Cowboys might come right down to the end. The other ones, I think there's one team that's significantly better than the other.
Okay.
I think there's 4. I think the 4 teams at the top, the Chiefs, the Bills, the 49ers, and the Eagles are, and then there's a wide gap and then everyone else, but the team number 4 and team number 5 are the 49ers and Cowboys, and they're facing each other on Sunday night.
Which game do you think has the biggest gap between the teams? I know a lot of people say Jacksonville, Kansas City, but we talked earlier, and we'll get in that game a little bit here, but we won't go too deep into it since we did the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Is it that game? Is it Giants Eagles? Is it Bills Bengals?
I think it's. I actually want to say Bills Bengals. We're going to get into that in a little bit, I'm sure, though. But I think I have to go with Giants and Eagles. I mean, last week the Giants and Vikings game was the fraud bowl between the 2 most fraudulent teams in the NFL. Congratulations to the Vikings for the Giants for being the ones to win the game. But now when you look at the final 8 teams, there's one team that sticks out like a sore thumb in just about every single statistic, and that team is the New York Giants. So it's the Eagles and the Giants. That should be a blowout.
Okay. All right. Look, let's get into the Bills and the Bengals because.
Well, what are your answers to those questions?
Okay,
what game are you most excited for?
Okay, I'm actually most excited for the Bills and the Bengals. So I'm
Okay.
interested about that. We obviously didn't get to see the game week 17 because of the DeMar Hamlin injury. And I was really looking forward to that game. I thought that game would be fascinating. Unfortunately, it was for all the wrong reasons. I would put Cowboys and Niners number 2 on my list. I am very interested in that game. I think it could be a great game. The game, I think, with the biggest gap, I actually do think is Kansas City and Jacksonville. I just think the Chiefs in the playoffs are a different animal. And they're a pretty scary animal during the regular season, but that team in the playoffs has a tendency to just be – I mean, if you go look at their offensive numbers in the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes, they're ridiculous. They average like 30-some-odd points a game in the playoffs. They're like the NBA player that's really good, but like in the regular season, it's kind of on cruise control and scores like 22 a game. Then they get in the playoffs, and they're like most guys get a little bit worse with all the percentages, and that guy scores 29 a game. The Chiefs have always kind of done that with Mahomes. So I know I'm a Chiefs fan, and people could say, oh, you're being a homer. I'm not. I think if they get to the AFC title game, I think it's an absolute fist fight. But I think in this game, I think Jacksonville's like a year ahead of schedule. I think they're good. I don't think they're fraudulent, but I think they're a little ahead of schedule. And I just think they don't match up particularly well with Kansas City. They don't get explosive plays. They don't get pressure on the quarterback. They don't have a good secondary. Like all those things are just death against Kansas City. So I'd go that way. But Eagles and Giants I get too. The thing I don't know with the Eagles is how healthy are they?
Right.
Like
that's
the thing with the Eagles that if the Eagles are 100% healthy, I think they'll handily beat the Giants. If they're not, and Lane Johnson can't move, and Kayvon Thibodeau's blowing around him, and Jalen Hurts can't really run, then it's a completely different football team. So that would be the question I would have about Philly.
Yeah, fair points.
All right. Let's start with the Bills and the Bengals, because you and I seem to have a different feeling about this game.
Yeah.
Why do you feel it's so lopsided, and which way? Which angle do you take?
I think the Bills are leagues above this Bengals team. I know this Bengals team has won how many games in a row now have they won?
9. 1-9.
Yeah. I actually don't think the Bengals are very good. I am married to the statistics, to the numbers, for better or for worse. And there is nothing about this Bengals team that jumps off the page to me that tells me that they're a good team. If you start at the obvious, which is net yards per play, which I talk about all the time ad nauseum. I'm sick of talking about net yards per play myself, but I think it does. Of all the stats, it does the best job of showing what teams are good at moving the ball down the field and preventing the other team from doing so. If people don't know what net yards per play is, it's the average amount of yards gained per play on offense. You subtract the amount of yards given up per play on defense. Of the 8 remaining teams, the Bengals are 7th. Their net yards per play is an even 0 this season. At home, negative for net yards per play for the Bengals, including last week?
No, I'm sorry. Because you said they're at 0 and they're 7th in the play. Who's the 8th team?
Giants.
The Giants. Okay.
Giants are minus 0.4.
Okay.
Giants stink. At home, they're plus 0.4, so not bad. On the road, they're minus 0.4. Now they got to head to Buffalo for this game. They were outgained. The Ravens deserved to win that game last week. They were outgained 5.5 yards per play to 4.3 yards per play. If to a Tyler Huntley-led Ravens team, if Tyler Huntley didn't reach out across the goal line and then that fumbled the ball and then Sam Hubbard returned a 99 yard, that's a 14-point swing. The Bengals won by 7. No matter what stat you look at, you want to look at third down rate, red zone rate, yards per play, turnovers, penalties, basically every single thing. They're around average. They don't have anything that jumps off the page to me as being a serious contender. Like I said, in net yards per play, they're 7th out of the 8 teams remaining. Yes, they've won 8 straight games, but I think you have to look past just wins and losses to truly evaluate a team. And I'm trying to evaluate the Bengals team, and I don't see any reason why they're going to win this game. Now, in saying that, the Bills' biggest red flag, which is why I took the Dolphins spread last week, was their turnovers. If they turn the ball over 3-4 times again, one of them being returned for a touchdown, they're going to lose. But if they play as good as they can and they don't turn the ball over, I think they beat this Bengals team handedly.
So all very well-reasoned arguments. I think the Bengals are going to beat them.
Turnovers?
Nope. Don't even care about them. I just think they're flat out a better football team. My reasoning, first of all, I'll start with this. I'll start with the negative of this. If the Bengals offensive line submarines them, that's one thing. Maybe that happens. The Bengals are without a bunch of guys up front. Maybe that just absolutely ruins the game for them. It's possible. If that doesn't happen, I do not think the Bills are winning this football game. The Bills have one receiver that scares you. One. That is it. Gabe Davis, once every 4 games, decides to play football. Dawson Knox is fine. Cole Beasley's fine. Smokey John Brown, or whatever his nickname is, Smoke Brown, he's fine. Like, Stephon Diggs is it. Josh Allen has, for the last half of the season, turned the ball over too much, and he has been a walking YOLO ball, where the ball is just 50 yards downfield 10 times a game. I don't trust their coordinator, Ken Dorsey. I don't trust their offensive line. I think the Bills have been living on a reputation built in the first 6 weeks of the year. They have not been good defensively since Von Miller got hurt. They do not get pressure. They do not get sacks. I think they're going to have a hard time taking advantage of that stuff with the Bengals up front. I think Burrow's flat out a better quarterback than Josh Allen is. I do. And by the way, I think Allen's excellent. I'm not trying to denigrate the guy, but I think Burrow's better than him. They have weapons all over the field. All over the field. And the one thing that is true of Buffalo in recent games, they can't cover. Guys are wide open. If the Dolphins could have caught the football on Sunday, they would have won the game with Skylar Thompson. And for all these people who are like, well, yeah, because of 3 turnovers. The Dolphins had 2 turnovers deep in their own territory. It wasn't like the Dolphins were +3 or +4. They're +1. Like, the Bills got 14 cheap points off the Dolphins, who turned the football over. The week prior to that, they played a Pats team that can't score, that can't throw the ball. The Pats moved the ball up and down the field on them in that game, and the Bills were bailed out by the fact that Nyheim Hines had 2 return touchdowns. I think the Bengals are flat out better than them. I think Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, is going to show them a million looks. That Ravens game was a nightmare for the Bengals for a lot of reasons. It's a division game. It's a game that, but more importantly, the division game is one thing. More importantly, Baltimore plays the way Cincinnati does not want to play. They'll drag you in the mud. They'll play physically. They'll run the ball. They'll control the clock. Buffalo does none of that. They don't run the ball. They don't play physically. They don't want to. Like Buffalo wants to play like Cincinnati does, except they're not as disciplined. I think Cincinnati's going to go in there and take their lunch money.
So what we're having right now is an argument of, and this is an argument I have all the time with people, is an argument between the eye test and the stats. I'm married to the stats. Some people trust the eyes, the just what they see on the field. But the Bills defense, statistically, significantly better than the Bengals. You want to look at opponent yards per play, Bills are 5th, Bengals are 17th. Third down defense, Bills are 6th, Bengals are 16th. Red zone defense, Bills are 2nd, Bengals are 5th. Bengals pretty good red zone defense there. Running play, the Bills are 2nd in the NFL in yards per carry. They're averaging 5.1 yards per rush. So the numbers tell me they can run the ball.
But they don't. They choose not to. They don't run the football. Unless it's Allen on like a power sweep to the right. Like they don't run the ball. They hate running the football unless it's Josh Allen.
Yeah,
I don't trust them.
A little bit. Well, yeah. They
and
do
by the
run
way,
a lot of design runs.
There was a stat out there. The Bills, before Von Miller got hurt, they were 4th in pressure rate with 4 guys rushing the quarterback or less. Since then, they're 27th. And I'm telling you, man, right? My feeling, it's the same reason I think the Chiefs are going to score a bunch of points on Jacksonville. It's the same. If you can't get pressure on elite quarterbacks, you're losing in this time of year. You just are. There's a reason the Bills paid $120 million to Von Miller. There's a reason. Because last year in Arrowhead, they could not breathe on Mahomes. And Mahomes lit them up like a Christmas tree. And I think the same thing's going to happen in this game. Burrow, I think they're going to throw the ball quick. They're going to get the ball to Higgins. They're going to get the ball to Chase. They're going to get the ball to Boyd. They're going to slip it out to P. Ryan and to Mixon. And who's covering these guys? I mean, Tre'Davious White's back, and he's terrific. Teron Johnson's in the slot. He's fine. They are going to relentlessly go at the outside corner who is not Tre'Davious White in this game. If Kyer Elam can guard Chase or Higgins in this game, God bless him. And I think the Bengals, one thing about them defensively, they give you a lot of looks. They're going to confuse him at times. So you and I are on total opposite ends of this one. I think the Bengals are flat out just a better football team right now. I really do. But they're getting 5.5. That line just climbs and climbs and climbs. Everybody loves the Bills. It makes you even more confident. The Bengals are a better team at this point in the year.
I don't think we've talked about a pick before that we are on disagree about this much, because I could not disagree more. I don't think there's any metric that shows the Bengals are a better football team. So we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one. I see Jack in the comments says, give me the Bengals money line. This dude said Chiefs will win 10 games. Dude, that's true.
Remember what you did.
I brought that up in the show that we did earlier. Yes, I was wrong about the Chiefs before the season started.
I am very curious to see how that game shakes in Buffalo, because I will say this. I'm curious if you agree with this, because this is not so much about the game itself, but just about the Bills. I was on a radio show last night, and I was asked who I thought was under the most pressure this weekend. Just a team, not a player. And I said I think it's Buffalo. I think of all the 8 teams in the playoffs right now, look, I think we can all agree Jacksonville and the Giants have no pressure at all. None. Like nobody expects them to be here. If they lose, who cares? The Bengals just went to the Super Bowl. I don't think there's a ton of pressure on them. Like if they lose, okay, you had another good year. You can build on it. Cowboys had to win Monday night. They won Monday night. I think there's always pressure because they're Dallas, but I don't think they have the most pressure, which leaves me with the 49ers, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Bills. The Bills and the Chiefs, I mean, the Chiefs have been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years, and they won one of them. yeah, you'd love to win, and it'd be embarrassing to lose at home to Jacksonville. But I don't think, and someone who is a Chiefs fan, I don't think there's a monumental amount of pressure. Certainly more than Jacksonville, but I don't think there's a monumental amount. I think for the Bills, who came into this year as the borderline consensus favorite to win the Super Bowl, if they lose this game at home to Cincinnati and they go out again, knowing that the cap's about to change for them because Allen's going to get paid through the roof and everything else, I think it's them. Do you agree? Or do you think there's another team with more pressure on them?
I would agree with that. I think for the entire playoffs, no matter what week you look at it, I think the most pressure is on the Bills because they had such high expectations. They had a very good team now for what? This is the third or fourth year that they've had a very good team.
4 years in a row in the playoffs.
Yeah, haven't been to a Super Bowl in that run, have nothing to show for it. Consensus. Preseason, before the season started, they were heavy favorites to win the Super Bowl. So, I would agree with that for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think, especially because of the team history. Like, if they were some team that had won like 6 Super Bowls before you, maybe a little less, but like those fans, they've been dying for a title, right? And this is the year. Like, and if they don't win this year, like Poyer might be gone, Edmonds might be gone after this year. You start losing guys. I mean, the Chiefs just went through it this offseason with Tyrann Mathieu and Travarius Ward and Tyreek Hill. And they've overcome it largely because they have Mahomes and they draft. And the Bills will overcome it to some degree too. They have Allen. They drafted well. But it gets harder is the point. It gets harder to stay at the top. The NFL is built to tear down the top and build up the bottom. I'm very curious. All right. Let's switch gears. Let's get into the Saturday night game. The Eagles and the Giants. I know you've been a huge fan of Big Blue all year. You've backed them. You believe in them. You've never wavered in your confidence on the Giants. Tell the good people out there why the Giants are going to win this game. Why that's your play.
Yeah, the Giants suck. I talked about it before. I mean, they're the sore thumb sticking out here when you look at the stats for these teams. Minus 0.4 net yards per play. Now, I will say what might be good news for them is that they've actually played much better on the road. Daniel Jones as a whole throughout his entire career has played way better on the road than at home, like significantly. I don't get it. I don't know why. I'll say a couple of nice things about the Giants. There's 2 reasons why they're able to win very close games and why they're able to pull off a lot of upsets this year is because their third down defense and red zone defense top 10 in the NFL. I think red zone defense is 7th, and I think third down defense they're 4th. But against the Eagles, they have a tall order in front of them because the Eagles are also their offense is top tier on third down and in the red zone. The first meeting that we saw between these two teams, the Eagles won that battle, the third down and red zone battle. The second game, the Giants won that battle, and that's why it's a lot closer than it probably should have been. So I think the Eagles run away with it. The Giants can't stop the run. 30th in opponent yards per carry. In the Eagles, obviously, a big part of their offense is running the ball. They run a ton of quarterback-designed run plays, which is why I think Gardner Minshew wasn't successful when he had to come in and fill in for Jalen Hurts because he can't run. That's going to scrap like 15-20% of your playbook if you can't run design runs. So as long, like you said earlier, the injuries are the big issue. If Jalen Hurts is not actually healthy and Lane Johnson is not actually healthy, then the Giants can stay in this game. But the Eagles have been a top 5, top 4, top 3 team for the majority of the NFL season. For all of the NFL season, the Giants have not been a bottom 5 team in almost every metric. I think Philadelphia should blow them out here. I'm actually considering going to this game. I'm in New York, so it's kind of a short drive, like a 2-hour drive to Philadelphia. I want to experience these Philadelphia fans I hear so much about.
You really want to experience them. Throw on a Giants hat. You'll experience it in ways you can't even believe.
I will not do that.
Or better yet, do what I would do is wear a Devils jersey. Really let the people know. Tell them, hey guys, can anybody find the last time? Is there color footage of the last time the Flyers won the championship? Bunch of frauds. They suck. Anywho, I don't have any team in sports. God, do I hate the Philadelphia Flyers. But just the biggest fraudulent bunch of clowns. Anywho, listen, Eagles, Giants. The big question has to be the injuries. I mean,
yeah.
I know Hurts isn't listed now, and it's like, oh, he's back. He's back. Okay, that's fine. What happens the first time he gets hit in that shoulder? That's my question. How healthy is he? And you better believe the Giants are going to try to find out. I mean, let's just, you get these people like, oh, if he's off the injury report, he's 100%. Yeah, okay. I want to see if he's 100%. I want to see what Lane Johnson looks like. They're beat up even in some spots on defense. That is my big question. The other thing is, I'll give you a fun stat. I don't know what it means. I'm not claiming it's like this huge stat of importance. It's just interesting. I put it in my column. When Daniel Jones rushes the ball at least 10 times in a game, and this includes last week where he ran, I believe, 17 times, the Giants are 6-0-1 this year. I don't know what the correlation is. Maybe it just means they're opening up the offense a little bit in different ways, and they're creating some numbers. I don't know. 6-0-1. I think if you're the Giants, your plan of attack has to be short in this game with Barkley and with Jones's legs and just move the pocket. The Eagles lead the league by a mile with 68 sacks. I mean, next best is Kansas City with 55. So it's a big drop down. I mean, I think if you're the Giants, your whole game plan's got to be move the pocket, quick throws. The one thing about the Eagles in this game, and I don't know if the Giants have the goods to take advantage of it, the Eagles are predictable defensively. They sit in zone coverage. They don't get out of it. Now, do the Giants have the guys to beat that? I don't know. I don't know that they do. Is Dable a good enough coach? And I think he's an excellent coach, but is he a good enough coach already to cook something up in this game where the Eagles aren't ready for it? I don't know. I don't know that they can do it. Look, the talent level is clearly a mismatch in the game. I think the Eagles will win. I will go out on a limb. I will take the Giants to cover the spread.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Just because I feel like the Giants are playing the best they've played in a while, and they're playing with confidence, and I don't think the Eagles are fully healthy. Maybe it's even a backdoor cover, something like 27-20. But I'll take them to cover. And I'll throw my hand up and say right now, that could be the game that 10 minutes in, I'm like, why? Like, why? But I'm going to take them to cover the spread.
I'll say this about the Giants. If they get out to an early lead, they're going to be in a good spot because they can run the football. The weakness of the Eagles defense is stopping the run. So if they can build a lead and then just try to run the ball and waste some of the clock and slow the game down, I think they can be competitive. If the Eagles get out to an early lead, a 10-0, 14-0 lead,
it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
I think, it's funny though. I think that's true in a lot of these games this weekend. I don't know with the Bills and the Bengals because they can both throw the ball. So I wouldn't say that about those two teams. But like, it's the same thing. I think, we'll touch on this game, although we did do a whole thing on Arrowhead Addicts. We don't have to go too deep into it. The Chiefs and the Jaguars. I think the same's true in that game. If Kansas City gets out to a big lead early in that game, and listen, credit to Jacksonville, not just last week. They have come back a lot this season. Dallas.
And the Chiefs have blown some big leads too, or at least the one that I just keep thinking about is the Broncos game.
That I got to be fair to them. That's about the one game that really happened.
Okay. Yeah. Fair
but
enough.
I think it's a kind of game. The Chiefs are not the Chargers. If the Chiefs get up in this game, I think the Chiefs will just continue to because Andy won't even run the ball.
Right.
Like most teams, they get up by 2-3 scores, they start running but the Chiefs won't even do that. They'll just keep throwing the football. I think for Jacksonville to win, they've got to win in a weird way. They've got to get some aggressive play calling that really comes up aces for them on 3rd and 4th down. Maybe an onside kick. They did that in week 10. Surprise onside kick. Maybe you fake a punt. Maybe you fake a field goal. I think it's going to have to be a lot of that stuff. And defensively, they're going to have to throw something at the Chiefs they haven't shown all year long. Because right now, if they want to sit in these man coverages and single high safety, which is what they like to live in, they will get destroyed doing that. They are not equipped to deal with Kansas City doing that. So Jacksonville likes to blitz. Mahomes kills the blitz. Like Jacksonville's going to have to do something that they're just not ready for. And it takes the Chiefs a quarter or a half to adjust to. I think if the turnover margin is even or even within 1, I think the Chiefs will win the game. If Jacksonville's +2 or more, then it gets interesting. We talked, I'm not even going to go cover, not cover. If I had to take a side, I'd take the Chiefs. But I think it's right around that number. I would take the over in this game. I think there will be a lot of points. I think the Chiefs will get to the mid to high 30s. And I think Jacksonville will get into the 20s.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Jaguars to cover in this game. Like you said, we talked about this game at length earlier. But my big reasoning comes down to 2 things, and that's the Chiefs' red zone defense, 2nd worst red zone defense in the NFL. It's hard to cover an 8.5 point spread if the team we're playing against is scoring a touchdown on like 67% of the red zone trips against them. And also Chiefs turnover differential, minus 0.2 in the season. Another way that it's tough to cover an 8.5 point spread is if you lose the turnover battle. So I think Chiefs win the game, but I'll take the 8.5 points with the Jaguars.
Totally understand it. It's the biggest line of the weekend. Yeah, before we get into the Niners and Cowboys, little teaser. Let's have some fun with this real quick. What do you think in the AFC, with due respect to Jacksonville, because they could win the game, but if they don't, and nobody gets significantly hurt here, because obviously that would change things, what do you think the line would be for the Chiefs and the Bengals at Arrowhead? If you had to guess, you had to put on your odds maker's hat. What do you think the line would be for that game at Arrowhead?
Yeah, because it'd be at Arrowhead. Right?
It would be. It would not be a neutral site if they play the Bengals.
I think it'd be. What is it for the Bills right now? 5. It's up to 5.5.
It opened, I believe, at 3.5.
Yes, I bet it at 3.5.
Okay,
because I thought that was a ridiculous line. I think it'd be an almost identical case where it would open up at around 4 and then would go up to maybe 5.5.
Okay. If the Chiefs play the Bills in Atlanta, the Dirty Birds kind of getting at the conference title game this year by de facto. Good for them.
I believe it'd be the first playoff game in our new stadium, I believe.
Beautiful. Hey, you're welcome. What do you think the line would be at? Neutral site. It's like an AFC Super Bowl.
I'd go Bills -1. That would be very close to a pick 'em at a neutral. I think Bills -1.
Okay. And if Jacksonville were to win, they would visit either Buffalo or Cincinnati. Do you think the line would be double digits in either situation?
Ooh, double digits? Definitely not the Bengals. It wouldn't be double digits. The spread would be a lot smaller than people would think against the Bengals. Against the Bills, I think the Bills and the Chiefs, from a betting standpoint, are very interchangeable. So I think it'd be like the same 8.5, maybe 9. I don't think it would get to double digits.
Okay. All right, let's get into the Cowboys and the 49ers. You think this is the game that would be the best of the weekend? It very well could be. I am somewhat of an NFL historian. I love the history of the game. And so the Niners and the Cowboys in the playoffs just warms my heart because there is plenty of history with these two teams, including last year when the Niners went into Jerry World and the Cowboys took roughly 37 penalties and lost the game as they ran out of time. So this game, I almost said Candlestick. Should be Candlestick. R.I.P. Prayers up to Candlestick. In Santa Clara, which is just an abomination, in Levi Stadium, the Niners laying 4. It's moved. It was 3.5. It's now 4. Do you think that's the right line for the game?
So when the Cowboys beat the Buccaneers on Monday night, the very first thing I did is I looked at the stats and I kind of set the number, what I think the number should be at for 49ers Cowboys, before I even looked at what the opening number was. I set it at -4.5 for the 49ers, and that is where it initially opened up. So I was going to have to look at the total, but then it did get bet down to 3.5. So I thought there was a point of value there. I did end up getting on the 49ers -3.5, but now it's back up to 4. So I think 4.5 is the right number. There are some 3.5s out there at some sports books, but I think 4.5 is the right number for this game. There's arguments to be made for both sides, convincing arguments to be made for both sides. So that's why I'm looking forward to this game the most. Because, well, I mean, even if you just look at the point spread, based on the odds, this should be the closest game of the bunch. So this is an interesting game.
I think it's the right line. I'm with you. I mean, you know more about lines obviously than I do. I'm just a dope that writes about the games. I don't break down gambling odds like you do. I think it's the right line though. I mean, look, I will tell you, I have struggled with this game because I think the Niners are the best roster in the NFL if you take away the quarterback. They're ridiculous everywhere else.
Right, that's a massive question mark for this game.
But that's it. Like it's like, and it always cracks me up when I see there's always these lists, and I'm just throwing out a site. I'm not slandering anybody. Like NFL.com, and it's like July, right? And I get it. It's a content desert, and you got to write something. It's like, here are the 10 best rosters in the league, and like some asshole team is 5th that has no quarterback. They're really good everywhere else, but they're starting they're starting Sean Mannion at quarterback, and you're like, yeah, that's why they have like the 27th best roster in the NFL. The Niners, to their credit, have brought in Brock Purdy. Of course, everybody and their mother knows at this point is Mr. Irrelevant. He's not been so irrelevant. He's been pretty good. He's done a nice job. But at the same point, he's been asked to do virtually nothing because they don't have to ask him to do anything. If I'm Dan Quinn in this game, if I'm the Cowboys defensive coordinator, my entire thought process is I've got to make this kid uncomfortable. I don't care what I have to do. I've got to make him uncomfortable. If we get home with 4, great. If I got to bring an extra rusher, fine. If I've got to show him some weird kind of coverage he hasn't seen yet, I'm cool with that too. Like whatever I've got to do, because in that game against Seattle, you look at the final score and you got a blowout. It wasn't a blowout for 3 quarters. Seattle was in that game, and whenever they got pressure on Purdy, he ran out of the back of the pocket, and he scrambled left, and he chucked the ball out of bounds. The Cowboys can get pressure. Dorrance Armstrong's a very good player. Micah Parsons is a phenomenal player. DeMarcus Lawrence, an excellent all-pro level type player. To me, this game comes down to those 3 guys up front for Dallas. If they can get pressure and they can force the issue, I think Dallas can and maybe even will win. If they can't, then I think you got problems because, again, it'll just be they'll run the ball, they'll dump it off, the intermediate routes, they'll kill you because they have time and they have so much talent. Where do you fall in the X factor for this game?
I find that this is a fascinating case because when Jimmy G went down with injury, the 49ers Super Bowl odds fell off a cliff. Everyone knew Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. He came in. Nobody expected him to be good. He has not had a bad game yet. I would say he's had every single game that he's played, and he's played well. He's played good. And the narrative going around is, yeah, but any quarterback could play good in this system. Is that true, though? Like, it's not like he's thrown the ball 10 times a game. He's 67.1% of passes he's completed, 8.1 yards per pass attempt, 13 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He has a quarterback rating of 107.3. If any quarterback could be doing this, why didn't Nick Mullins, when he played with the 49ers for a few games there a couple years ago, why didn't he become the Brock Purdy? Why did everyone want Jimmy G to be traded? Because he wasn't good enough. Is Brock Purdy a bad quarterback that's just playing well in a good system? Or is there a chance that Brock Purdy is actually a good NFL quarterback? Because everyone keeps waiting for him to have that implosion of a game, and he didn't look great in the first half against the Seahawks last week, but then came out firing the second half, ended up completing 18 to 30 passes for 332 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. Brock Purdy might just be a good quarterback. Is it still too early for that or no?
I think he could be good. But I don't think the conversation is misguided around him. I think he can be good. I think he has been good. I think the guys in the room believe in him just based off the way they react to him. That's huge. But I would say this. I think that Brock Purdy's been in a situation where he's had no adversity. I mean, none. Like, they're never down in games. They've played bad team after bad team. I mean, even Seattle. Come on. They have not played anybody. You look at these teams that he's played against. The Dolphins, no defense. The Cardinals, not even an NFL team. The Raiders, no defense. Seattle, no defense. The list goes on and on. So Seattle in the regular season too. No, they don't play any defense. If I'm a defensive coordinator, and I understand this is easier said than done, I get that. I'm not a defensive coordinator for this reason. I would say to him, you are not going to beat me between the hash marks. You are not going to beat me, between the numbers. You're not going to beat me 10 yards and in, and you're not beating me between the numbers. If you're going to beat me, you're going to be accurate, and you're going to have a strong arm, and you're going to throw these outbreaking routes outside the numbers. I would defend him in a way where I'm forcing everything to the perimeter. And if he wants to throw the ball in the middle of the field, he's going to throw into a minefield to defenders. And I think a lot of times they get up in these games and they don't have to really play an even game. They can run the ball. They can keep you off balance. Dallas in this game has got to find a way to get up in the game and force the Niners into some obvious passing downs because then you can tee off. If they can't do that, they're going to lose. If they can do that, I think they have a very good shot to win. I don't think that Purdy's bad. I don't think all of a sudden he's going to turn into a pumpkin, but I also don't think he's Joe Burrow reincarnate here. I don't think he's that either. I think he's capable. I think he's limited. And I think the Cowboys can expose it if they can get the right set of circumstances, but that's not easy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what makes this game so fascinating. But it's like, I agree. That's probably what these defenses want to do to Brock Purdy, try to force him into bad throws. But why haven't I guess, is it just the defenses he played just aren't skilled enough or aren't coached well enough to do that against him? Or the 49ers get out to too big of a lead and then they can't kind of implement that game plan? I don't know. I'm starting to become a huge Brock Purdy defender, though, which is a big reason why I'm on the 49ers. But we'll see. It's interesting.
All right. So we're going to get out of here. Who are you picking straight up this weekend? Who you got?
Just straight up?
Straight up.
I think the 4 favorites win.
4 favorites.
Like I said at the top of the show, I think there's a massive gap between the top 4 teams in the NFL, the 49ers, Eagles, Bills, and Chiefs, and then the rest of the NFL. Statistically, it's been like that all season. I don't expect it to be any different this weekend.
And if you had to pick an upset, you would take Dallas.
Yes.
Who are you debating them with?
The Jaguars.
Oh, man. Oh, my God.
Or the Eagles. If the Eagles aren't healthy, I mean, the Giants could pull it off, I guess.
Okay. Who's your Super Bowl pick right now? We got 8 teams left. Who's your pick?
Chiefs.
And yet you almost have them losing to the Jaguars.
You're
a man of many emotions.
Yes. I value the Jaguars a little bit higher than a lot of other people do.
You know what, to be fair,
I value momentum.
Okay. I will tell you this. I do think the Jaguars are a little undervalued going into this game. I think there's this mindset that there's no possible way they can win. I do not believe that. I think Jacksonville is good enough that if the Chiefs allow for them to be in the game,
right,
whether it be by mistakes or allowing them to convert 4th downs, the Chiefs could lose. I think there's a reason the Chiefs are the favorites they are. I think if the Chiefs go out and play their best game, they're winning. I mean,
100%.
They'll win the game. They'll cover whatever. But I mean, the Chiefs, like any team, the one thing I will always tell people in the playoffs, every game in the NFL in the playoffs is Game 7. You don't know. Did I think Skylar Thompson was going to be really pressing Buffalo in the 4th quarter? No, but he was, because the Bills and you always get the hindsight they turned the ball over. Yeah, that's part of it. They turned the ball over. The Chiefs have turned the ball over this year. They've not been good in the red zone. And the Jaguars and the Giants both have one thing going from this weekend. They have nothing to lose. Nothing. It's always dangerous when you play a team like that. I remember as a kid, man. How old are you?
30.
Okay, I'm 34.
Unfortunately.
Okay, well, listen, life comes at you fast. I was laying down watching TV the other day, pulled my oblique. I was on the floor in pain for 15 minutes, just laying there, either waiting for the pain to subside or to die. And here I am. So we can figure out which one won out.
Well, you just asked me that question. My initial reaction was to say 27, and then I had to think, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm actually 30."
No, I hear you, man. I'll be 35 this year, and they're going to be pulling me off the roof. Or maybe I'll fall right through. It depends on how much ice cream I have over the summer. Listen, I think that you look back at these games. I remember when Tom Brady was not Tom Brady, and they played the Raiders up in Foxborough, and I will never forget sitting there watching that game. It was snowing like crazy at my house. It was the same snowstorm they were having up in New England, and I'm watching the tuck rule, and I at the time as a kid, don't ask me why, as much as I've always been a Chiefs fan, I also as a kid I liked the Rams as well. So
my dad was a big Rams fan. First game I ever watched was Tom Brady's first Super Bowl. Okay,
so that game, I was like, this is great. The Rams are going to kill this effing team. Tom Brady, I would be and then you watch it unfold, you're like, oh my God, they're going to lose. I mean, it happens. I remember really young, I was 9. Jacksonville went into Denver and beat them in 1996. And let me tell you, if you were old enough to remember that game, Denver was such a big favorite. Denver had clinched the 1 seed 3 weeks to go in the regular season. It was comical how much better they were than anybody else. And they got up 12-0. And the Denver Post that week called them the Jaguars and was like laughing about the fact that Denver had to play them. And Jackson went out there and beat them with Mark Brunell, who people at the time were like, who the hell is Mark Brunell? Well, it turns out he's pretty good. You don't know. You don't know in these games. You never know when somebody's about to come of age. And on the flip side, you never know when a great team is about to show how great they are. And they score 55 points. And you're like, oh my God. I mean, both things happen. So, listen, favorites are favorites for a reason. They win more than they lose. But the NFL playoffs, it's not the NBA playoffs where it's a best of 7. And if, the 8 seed beats the 1 seed in game 1, you're like, who cares? They'll just, well, in the NFL, if the 8 seed beats the 1 seed that one time, well, that's it. It's over. We'll see. And then
I will say last year in the divisional round, I picked all 4 underdogs. They went 3-1. Chiefs were the only favorite to win in the divisional round last year. So I'm flipping. I'm all 4 favorites this time, but underdogs win this round.
They can. They can. Absolutely. Absolutely. It happens. Well, that serves you right for picking against the Chiefs. So I'm just kidding. Hey, it looked pretty damn good with 13 seconds on the clock.
I had a 4-leg underdog money line parlay, and I would have won it was like $1,700 if the Bills didn't blow that with 13 seconds left.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
That's tough. I have a bunch of friends of mine who are Bills fans from college because I went to school not that far from there, and I got to tell you, that's one of the few times. No, I don't feel bad. Hey, listen, you're a fan, whatever. I've gone through horrible losses. It happens. That was one of the few times in my life I genuinely felt awful for like friends of mine. Like, oh my God, that is tough. As much as I was elated, I had buddies in my home. Like, that is as bad as it gets. That was the other way around. Oof. All right. Listen, we're getting the hell out of here. If your team's involved this weekend, good luck to you. If your team's not involved this weekend, well, enjoy the games and sit back and relax. You don't have to crap. You don't have crap to worry about. Your team stinks. You don't have to deal with the pain and the anguish of a playoff game. All right. For Ian McMillan, I'm Matt Verderam. Hey, go bet the Devils to beat the Kraken tonight. It's going to happen.
Take the Kraken.
Go right against McBets over here, who does not pay attention to the record. You always talk about being a numbers man. The Devils are killing it on the road. They're going to do it again. Out with the Kraken, going back east. Then we'll lose a bunch of games because we're terrible at home. All right. For Ian McMillan, I'm Matt Verderam. This has been Stacking the Box with BetSided. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you again real soon.